Welcome, everyone. I'm Arlita Little, the Executive and Artistic Director here at the Loft, and you are attending our year-long writing project 2024 information session. Welcome. We're so excited about what we're going to share with you this evening. It's me. It is also, I have a joy to introduce Marianne Mansler. Many of you have already worked with Marianne or met with Marianne. And if you haven't, Marianne is our new program manager for education. She will be responsible for developing and managing the Loft's annual class offerings for adults and youth, serving as the primary liaison, managing relationships with teaching artists, and collaborating across programs and events to advance the success of the Loft's educational offerings. We have a new strategic plan at the Loft that centers anti-racism and equity, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that. But Marianne's role will be key in advancing anti-racism and equity within our educational offerings and in all of our learning environments, digital and in person. So Marianne is already leaning into her new role. She served as the interim education manager. And so I just want to say congratulations and make sure you all know how fabulous Marianne is. So welcome, Marianne, in your new role. We're also here with our teaching artists, and we will turn over the platform to them because we know that you are really here to hear from them about how the year-long writing projects are going to operate within their cohorts, within their projects. So most of this evening will be the instructors and mentors really sharing what you can expect in your experience with them. But to kick us off, I wanted to give a brief overview of the evening. Tonight, we will share a little bit about the history, a little bit about what's happening here at the Loft. Then we'll turn it over to the instructors and mentors to go deeper for about 5 or 6 minutes each into what their projects will be like. We'll give you some information if you want to go the next step to register, to get a sense of what the costs are and other administrative details. And then we're going to open it up for question and answer. As you probably heard, we are recording this session and we plan to post it online after tonight. So if you had a friend, a writer, know someone who wasn't able to attend this evening, they will be able to watch the recording, and we're going to post it on our website. So with that, I will go ahead and get us started. Yay. Welcome. If you can back it up just one more. Thank you, Marianne. So we're living into a new mission at the Loft. We're about to start our 50th year in 2024. And with the new year, with our anniversary, we are launching and celebrating a new mission that focuses on advancing the power of writers and readers to craft and share stories, to create and celebrate connections, and to build just life-sustaining communities. This really is putting forward a vision where we recognize that the power of the word can liberate minds and deepen relationships and inspire movements for people and for planet. Centered with this, we've evolved a new strategic framework that will be focusing our efforts on with goals that extend into the next 5 years. These goals center anti-racism, equity, looking at organizational health and wellness, creating learning and innovation in all the work that we do and the ways in which we work together at the Loft, and also centering authentic community engagement, doing things like this event tonight to give you more information and really spell out pathways for your journey with us at the Loft. The year-long writing projects kicked off in 2017 with the novel writing project. This will be their 7th year. There's much to celebrate there, and many incredible teaching artists have been involved and are still involved in the work of the year-long writing projects. as we look ahead to 2024, all of the projects have some core project elements that we want to share with you. All of the projects have craft and instruction and mentoring by some incredible mentors that you're going to meet in just a few minutes. They all involve small cohort workshops with a maximum of 12 people. They all involve individual study, that is attentive detail to your projects by the instructor or mentor, as well as deep readings for the cohort and discussions about what it means to be in the field and to evolve a project. Visiting authors will be part of the projects. Each of the mentors and instructors invites people from their network into the project, and you'll hear more about that as we go along. And then ultimately, in alignment with so many of your goals, the idea is to be working on a manuscript. This will be an ongoing dialogue and conversation with the instructors and mentors as part of the year-long writing project. And you'll have the opportunity to receive feedback as part of the involvement with the project. And then lastly, oftentimes upon completion of the year, there's the opportunity for participants to really share what you've evolved in a public reading. And the Loft is happy to support and feature and celebrate all the work that writers do within the context of the year-long writing projects. So there's a lot of components that work together, but it is important to note that all of the year-long writing projects have evolved uniquely. So the novel writing project has its own characteristics. The creative nonfiction and memoir writing project has unique characteristics. The poetry apprenticeship has unique characteristics, and they've all evolved over time. And honestly, as different instructors learn what works and what doesn't, and you'll hear more about that as we go along. Next, Marianne is going to share a little bit about what it's going to look like in 2024.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are so excited to have 4 cohorts start in January of 2024. These will all be online via Zoom. And we will have 4 cohorts across creative nonfiction. We'll have 2 cohorts there. We'll have 1 cohort in fiction and 1 cohort in a poetry apprenticeship. Each cohort can look forward to an orientation to happen at the end of January, and they'll all follow similar schedules of hosting classes and meetings throughout the 3 terms of winter, summer, and fall, as well as have a couple breaks in there for students to pursue independent study. Fingers crossed, we're going to have a June start for cohorts, so that is to be determined. But each of our winter cohorts, they, like Arlita said, get a final reading in January of 2025. Just a little preview into sort of what that schedule looks like for the different cohorts. Novel writing project will primarily be meeting on Thursdays. With Peter. CNF with Sun Yung Shin will be meeting on Mondays. Carolyn's cohort in creative nonfiction will be meeting on Wednesdays. And then poetry with Heid will be meeting on Wednesdays and Saturdays as well, depending on the term. So we're really excited to have all of these mentors working with our students in this upcoming season. So I'm going to let our teaching mentors speak for themselves and share a little bit about each of their cohorts. So I'm going to bring Peter Geye to the floor and talk a little bit about novel writing project.
And then Peter, do you have slides that you want us to show? Because we can take the slideshow down if you'd rather just speak live.
No, I'll just speak live. Yep.
Okay.
So, Thanks, Arlita, and thanks, Marianne. It's lovely to see everyone. I'm so excited to be moving into the... Arlita, you said 7th. I think next year will be the 8th year of the novel writing project. We're wrapping up the 7th. But it's been an honor over the last several years to be a part of this program, to watch it grow and evolve and mature. And I think that its best days are ahead of it for sure. I'm going to just say a few things about what you might expect in the class, a few things about myself, and then of course we'll have time at the end of the evening for questions for any of the teaching artists or for anyone from the Loft as well. So I am a practicing novelist. In the spring of 2025, I'll be publishing my 5th novel. One of the things that I think distinguishes this novel writing project is an emphasis on doing the work, an emphasis on the pleasure of doing the work, the joy of doing the work, the hard work of doing the work. And I bring to the table plenty of experience with all of that. I'm a father as well. I have a family, a big family. That's another big part of my life, but I'm a dedicated and devoted teacher, and the relationships that I have formed over the years teaching this class, the things that I have learned myself have all been a factor in my own evolving work. I think it's really important to note that for as long as I've done this, that is either teach the class or write novels, there's always something new to learn. Every book is different, every project is different, every person is different. And I come into this class and into this program very much with that front of mind. One of the things that I take a lot of pride in is that I'm adaptable. I figure out or try to figure out and usually do figure out what is going to work for the individual students. There's not a one size fits all solution to writing a novel, and we'll figure out together how that's going to work. The year ahead, if you enroll in any of these programs, especially in the novel writing, well, not especially, but from my point of view, from the novel writing project, you should be prepared for a ton of work. I often tell people that it's like taking on a part-time job. It's a pleasurable work, but it is no doubt a lot of work. If you are worried about jobs or other responsibilities, you'll definitely want to give some consideration to the amount of time that it takes. The object is, of course, to write a novel, to not only write a novel, but go through the first revision process of a novel, all during the course of the year. I don't know how many of you have tried writing novels or have written novels in the past, but you know that is a big project. I mentioned that I'm adaptive. I think that whether you're writing a mystery novel or a literary novel or a historical novel or a political novel or any other kind of novel, I welcome you in the class. I think the more diversity there is in our students, in the subjects that they're writing about and the genres that they're writing about, so much the better. It becomes a better learning environment for everyone. It's hard to say how much work the year ahead is going to be for you, but I think that it's certainly at a minimum you should plan on somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week dedicated to the course and to the writing of your novel. If you can consistently give that to yourself and to the group, I think you'll be okay. Not only will you be writing your novel this year, but you'll be in a group of up to 12 writers who are also writing their novels. You'll be forming a community in the classroom, in the online classroom. You'll be sharing in conversations about everybody's work. You'll be learning an awful lot on the level of craft. You'll be learning an awful lot about the publication process and what that looks like down the road. And it's an enormous undertaking. So be ready for that. My methodology, my pedagogy is pretty simple. I like to bring the students' work to the table and discuss that work as a group. And those will be our primary sources for the year. There will be exercises, there will be talks, craft talks throughout the year. There will be a series of conversations about the publication process, from finding an agent to planning your first book launch and everything in between. But most of our conversation is about the work that you're doing. And whether we're talking about student A's work or student B's work, the conversations, if they're going well, and they just about always do, are going to be for the benefit of everyone in the room. So even if we're not talking about your work, we'll be having conversations that will hopefully help you understand your work better. We'll be visited by 3 writers over the course of the summer. Marianne mentioned the schedule. We meet on Thursday nights starting at the beginning of February and going through sometime in April. We meet again for 6 weeks over the summer. We meet 3 times, once each month on a Saturday in the summer. And then we have another 12-week term in the fall, starting in mid-September, I think, and going through mid-December. Those writers are here to join us in conversation. We'll read their books. Some writers that we've had in the past. This year we had Sugi Ganeshananthan. We had Carol Dunbar and Benjamin Percy join us. Some other writers who have been here in the past include Emily St. John Mandel has been here. Linda Lagarde Grover has been here. Marlon James has been here. So it's a pretty phenomenal list of writers. Those conversations are informal. They're a chance for you to have a conversation with some of the best writers in the world and to hear from them about their own best practices, about the work that they do, about their craft. We'll also be visited by at least a couple of publishing professionals in the fall term, usually an agent and an editor. And I think that is about what I have to say. Like I said, I'll be happy to answer questions at the end of this, but I'm going to turn it over to whoever is next in line. Marianne, you'll introduce them, no doubt. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to put my email in the chat. So if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, please feel free to do that at any time. Okay.
And Carolyn, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Holbrook. It's good to see so many people here, and it's good to see some names and faces that I am familiar with. I have been teaching for around 30 years, mostly at Hamline University, also at Minneapolis Community College, and the Loft, and other community venues. I have published 4 books of creative nonfiction, and one of them was a book of profiles of leaders of nonprofits. There is also a memoir that I have published and a book of essays. And I'm really happy to be here. This is my 2nd year working in the year-long program. And a lot of what Peter said is pretty much what I'm going to echo. This program is very rewarding. It's also hard work. Trying to complete a first draft by in a year is, it is pretty work intensive, but it's also very rewarding. We will also have 3 terms in the winter, spring, and fall. We will have craft talks. We will have lots of reading. We'll be reading a primary textbook and several memoirs that we'll also be reading and discussing. We'll also bring in several writers to talk about their process and their books. We will be learning craft throughout the entire year and discussing each other's work in workshops, which are, will be discussions of each other's work. These small, lovely classrooms become a community within themselves. And over time, we get to really know each other and each other's work, and we really begin to care about each other's success. And so that's pretty much my approach. And I will also be bringing in publishing professionals near the end of the year, but I will also be bringing in other writers to discuss their work as well. And what else? Let's see. I think, let's see, I can talk about during the first term, the first 12 weeks. Well, let me just say this, there will be writers in this group of 12 who will be at different levels of, writing experience. Some will be almost done with a first draft. Some will be farther along than that. Some are just beginning with the work, and some are still trying to figure out what it is they want to write. And I like to think that I am also very flexible, and I want to see each one of you succeed. I will have what I like to call office hours a couple of times a week when we can meet one-on-one. And I also encourage people in my cohort to meet together outside of class to really get to know and work with each other and get to know each other as people as well. And during the limited summertime, we'll have more time one-on-one with me with conferences, and we'll also have guest authors come in during the summer as well. We'll have several nights that we'll be meeting on Wednesday nights in the summer, and then also Saturday afternoons in a limited session. And then in the fall, we will really get, we'll have another 12 weeks where we will try to complete the draft of our novel, or excuse me, our memoir or book of essays or whatever we're working in creative nonfiction. So I think that's pretty much it, what I have to say. And I will put my email address and phone number in the chat as well. And if you'd like to contact me, please do feel free to. So that's all.
Thank you, Carolyn. Heid, why don't we go ahead with the discussion of the poetry project, and then we'll queue up the video for Sun Yung. But welcome, Heid. We're excited to celebrate you as our new poetry mentor. It's so exciting.
Thank you. So this is my first year, so we'll try to describe what I haven't done for the poets who are interested in joining the cohort. To begin with, I've been teaching poetry for at least 30 years, maybe longer. I have worked quite a bit with MFA students and MA students working on manuscripts, as well as in informal consultations and editorships and so forth. So I have seen a lot of books of poetry as they form, and I'm looking forward to seeing some new ones this coming year. As in terms of how we're going to work, I want to make sure that I'm reiterating what others have said about meeting you where you're working individually, forming some of the direction of our cohort as you come into it, and as I learn a little bit more about you and your writing. Even if people are at the same level of experience in poetry, often the types of poetry are very different from one another, and unlike the structures of some genres, there is just a huge variety of ways that poetry books are put together these days, and hybrid projects and hybridity come into that. And the goal is to produce something that is recognizable out of the work that you're doing or have done and revise, is recognizable to a publisher as something that could be a book, because once you get that manuscript in the door, it often changes in the process. So, and we'll learn a little bit about that too, like how you let go of your work. So somebody coming in with a full manuscript of poems might not be in any different shape by December than somebody coming in with just the hope that they can find a book in the work. So there's like just a lot of variety with poetry, and I'm willing to meet that and work with people on the particulars of their needs, and while providing craft lessons, of course, and introducing you to some writing professionals. The folks who have agreed to come visit us in the coming year include Elise Passion, a poet whose book and title poem for her book gave the film Killers of the Flower Moon its title. So she's an Osage writer who's worked in the national poetry organizations and literary organizations for decades, and it's very interesting to work with, and working with manuscript writing students, because she and I talk about putting manuscripts together quite a bit, quite often. We're also going to probably have some time with poetry and publication professionals in the Twin Cities area, although we'll be online, but it always helps to know who's doing what where. And that would be, my preference is to have folks who are from here get to know who is here. My particular interest in poetry does have a little bit of a hybrid bent. I'm very interested in poetry that intersects with performance and with visual art and other media and other art such as dance. So doesn't mean that you have to write that, but I will be giving you some examples from that experience of my life and having us think a little bit about where does a book go or poem go beyond the page. I think that's something that is coming into poetry writing right now. So if you have some, idea, if you've been writing plays and you want to try and get a book of poetry done, I definitely am open to and welcoming that. If you've been writing short stories and you want a book of prose poems, I would love to talk to you about that, and I've refereed projects like that in the past. In terms of practical things, we're down for Wednesdays in the evening and some Saturdays, and I would love to talk about how that schedule works for folks. I'm not likely to change from Wednesdays or Saturdays, but the time of day is something I think we can talk about. When we're not meeting to have some craft instruction, visit with a guest, which we'll do later in the year, I would love it if we are able to meet and workshop, as well as dedicate ourselves to some individual time, so I can do one-on-one with the poets. And I would do that in long and short blocks, some that are not quite that are 30 or 40 minutes, and then some that are the full 75 minutes, so that we can work with longer manuscripts at times in the later part of the year. That's not, not a small part of what we'll be doing. It's very important that we'll be looking at individual poems together. So there'll be a fair amount of that. Let's see, what else am I not thinking about, having not done this before? What am I imagining? I think that just one of my teaching philosophies is that there are all different types of ways to be a poet. There are all different types of poetry. I am really open to them, but I want to make sure that I'm working with a poet who reads poetry. So I will assign some books of poetry that we're going to talk about together. And I also think that as poets, you have to write prose to succeed and to bolster your work. So we're going to look at some essays by poets in a new book called Personal Best, edited by Aaron Ballou and Carl Phillips, and it just came out. So it has poems as well as essays in it, and I think that'll be a fun thing to work through. I think I went through my 5 minutes, and I'm looking forward to hearing questions and Sun Young's video.
Thank you, Heid. Marianne, if we could cue up Sun Yung.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, let me make sure I had the volume shared.
And if you have questions, we'll be using the raise hand function after towards the end. We'll be sure to leave ourselves at least 15 to 20 minutes for your questions. So take note of those. Or if you're afraid you'll forget, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll scroll through and answer those as we're able.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play Sun Young's video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sun Yung Shin, and I'm the January cohort mentor for the Loft Literary Memoir CNF year-long program, and I'm really excited. I'm sorry I couldn't be there live or be here live. Apologies, but I hope that I will answer some questions in these slides, and then also I am very available to respond to any questions or concerns via email. So this is my email, sunyungshin@gmail.com. And I'll flash it again at the end of my handful of slides. And so I'll be watching for your questions in my email, and I will get back to you in a very timely manner. So since you're going to hear about the program from the Loft folks, I'll just focus a little bit on how I approach working with emerging writers or writers with a specific project. So I firmly believe that everyone is creative, that every voice is important. This is such a bedrock belief of mine as a teacher, facilitator, creative writing workshop leader for decades now. Writing and language are human rights. Language belongs to all of us equally. Writing and language exist in contexts of power. Student-centered, kindness, substance, openness, growth, humor, flexibility, responsiveness are the adjectives that I think of when I think about my practice and what I try to bring to the workshops. And I've also gotten this feedback for many years from many different students, whether in English language classrooms or graduate student creative writing, high school residencies, high school workshops, community workshops. I teach in a lot of different contexts. I'm here to help you generate your pages. And we're really going to focus on generating, on experimenting, on playing, on keeping our mindset in the place that we need to in order to keep going with our project. You've signed up for this, or you will, those of you who will be registering for this are making a big commitment to yourself. And so I'm here to support that commitment. I'm here to help you build skills and access resources so you can write your pages and hopefully feel good about it while you're doing it. And enjoy yourself, feel empowered, feel gratified, feel like you're working towards something that is really important to you and that you're doing so in an authentic way, and you're receiving support from me, receiving support from your peers, and you're giving support, and that it gives you the stamina to get through a long project. We will practice understanding and respecting what and who has come before us as writers and word workers. So that's lineage, artistic ancestors and other ancestors, whoever those are for you. One of my main ancestors and role models is James Baldwin, whose picture is here, as a thinker and as an artist and as a public intellectual. So we should bring our whole selves and our best selves to our workshop, our sessions. That means care, integrity, honesty, authenticity, compassion, bravery, grace, all of those good things. I can and will hear and receive and seriously consider any and all feedback or criticism on my teaching and our workshop. With active listening and definitely an open mind and open heart. Class time is valuable, and it's my job to keep us moving and learning kindly and firmly. As a mentor, I'm here to understand and support your vision, help you develop your vision for your project, help you achieve your goals as a writer. And so we'll do that in so many different ways: craft lectures, lessons, demonstrations, examples, prompts, writing in class, writing out of class, reading in and out of class, and giving you very specific feedback. Developmental editing, so not, micro level proofreading, but really big picture themes, characterization, structure, point of view, scenes and summary, all of those things we're going to get into. It's really great. It's my job to facilitate group writing workshops that are respectful, meaningful, practical, and make effective use of class time, and to encourage you in all those other things that help you develop your path as a writer, especially if you're really new. And if you're not brand new, that's great too. Wherever you are as a writer, we always need support. We always need help in the sustainability of ourselves as writers. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have changed the date. It's not April, but for our group, this group would be December. Or I'm sorry, not December, but whatever our Lita says it is. Apologies for the details. So main expectations of participants, really number one, just making this workshop a priority for yourself. If you invest in this program, you're making an investment of time and money and longevity of time. And so just really making it a priority. And I'm going to help you do that. Lastly, my approach to workshopping, I have a whole, system. It's simple, but well tested. We'll get into that in, when we start the cohort. So that's it. Questions, comments, please email me at sunyungshin@gmail.com, and I will get back to you and help you figure out if this is the right program for you. So thank you so much.
Okay, I'll leave that up if you want to take a screenshot. We'll also drop Sun Yun's email in the chat for y'all. I will pull up the slideshow. So thank you all again. My name is Marianne Mansler. I'm the Program Manager of Education here at the Loft. Just a couple more details for y'all before we jump into questions. So some administrative details are the cost of the program is $7,500. The teaching artist of each cohort has an initial meeting with all of the registrants to ensure fit. At this time, some may request a short writing sample or, have a phone call with you to discuss and make sure that your, project is a good fit for the program and that y'all sort of vibe. And so payment will not be taken until after that phone call. There's payment plans available. We have monthly payment plans as well as CESL, and we have access funds available as well. So those help to fund spots for BIPOC and historically marginalized groups of folks. There's one access fund spot available per cohort. So we can also drop the link to the application and to the access funds page into the chat, but you'll apply and answer some questions around financial need, writing project fit, demonstrated writing history, and sort of what you're looking for with the year-long writing project. What is the need for resources and community? We'll have an interview review, an internal review committee look through those applications and pass those along to the teaching artists, who at which point will have the final say for that final spot. So the deadline for that is November 17th, and that application is live now. So feel free to check that out. And then registration as a whole for all of the cohorts opens November 15th for Loft members, and then November 16th to the general public at loft.org. If you have any questions at all about any of this, you can always follow up with me. My name is Marianne Manzler. We'll drop my email in the chat as well. But I just want to go ahead and thank you all again for coming, and feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll shout them out, or as Arlita said, we'll use the hand raising function for questions.
We can get started. There was one question in the chat related to the timing on Saturdays for the poetry project. Heid, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I think I answered it in there. It's to be determined, but not 6 to 9 at night. So I'm not ruining anybody's weekend party plans.
Thank you. We're just going to verbalize what was in the chat in case it doesn't show up in the recording. So, all right. For other folks, just go ahead and raise your hand, and we can unmute you for any additional questions.
I have one question in the chat for Peter. Could you say more about how you facilitate the workshop portion?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the course of the year, each student should expect to submit about 100 pages of their manuscript as they're working on it and as they're developing it for consideration in the classroom. My expectation is that the group of students will all read the manuscript, not 100 pages at a time, but 100 pages over the course of the year. So typically it's 25 pages in the winter, spring, 25 pages in summer, and then a longer manuscript in fall. We bring those manuscripts to the classroom. They will have been thoughtfully read, thoughtfully considered, and we typically have a two-part conversation, one where we talk about the qualities and the work that stand out as exceptional or terrific or in some way exemplary, and another part of the conversation where we talk about opportunities and some of the places where the writer's own expectations for the work are not up to their standards yet. It is a process, of course, writing a novel is, and the object of these conversations is for us to help each other see both what is already wonderful and what is only on its way to being wonderful in the work. I'm pretty thorough in my expectations as we sort of enter into the submission phase of things. I think kindness is the #1 rule. I think an open mind is close on its heels. I'm a stickler for thoroughness and for the golden rule, that is, you get what you give. And in my experience, these conversations are fabulous. I just had one of the best conversations that I've had all year last night. A writer who frankly, and by her own admission, struggled through the first 4 or 5 months of the program, but is finding her stride. And I think if she were here to vouch for the program, she would say that the kindness and the spirited conversations, the open-heartedness that exists in this classroom that we all help each other facilitate is the reason that that's been true. She's wanted to give up a couple of times, and we just haven't let her. And so those sorts of conversations are especially rewarding. Listen, it's true that some writers have more ability than others. Some writers are further along in the process than others. Some writers have better ideas for their novels than others. All these things are true, but we don't discriminate in any way against any of those things. And that's just a part of the deal for signing up.
Thank you, Peter. Mary, you had a question.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it's Mari. I'm interested in the novel class, and I'm just curious, how soon does the registration fill up? do you need to get your registration in the first day? And is it, you know, the first come, first served?
It's a great question, Mari. And I don't know if I should answer that or not. Typically these writing projects fill up pretty fast. I think of it as like concert tickets going on sale or the new iPhone being available. In the past, if you haven't signed up on the on the first day, you're probably going to end up on a waiting list. There's only one section of the novel writing project this year, so that makes those spots even a little harder to come by. But I think if you prepare and plan carefully, you should be able to to get yourself a seat in this class.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, great question. Sign up quick. We have another question in the chat. Let's see. I just had it. Okay, a question from Emily. For both the CNF cohorts, are essay collections included? I'm working on a lyrical essay collection that includes more journalistic aspects. I did an MFA and it felt it was almost completely focused on memoir, so I'm seeking a space that supports more or different forms. For you, maybe, Carolyn?
Yeah, I could speak to that.
Thank you.
By all means, I would accept memoir, lyric essays, a book of essays, whatever, in the genre of creative nonfiction. I'm happy to have a variety of people working in different forms of creative nonfiction. Also, I have a slightly different approach to registration than what Peter was talking about. I do like to talk with people who want to register for my class and try to put together a cohort of people that, whose work and whose experience might work well together, rather than first come, first served. But yes, to your question, Emily, by all means, yes, a collection of lyric essays would be welcome.
Marianne, there's a question from Nipas. Hello, how many words or pages does the Access Fund essay application have to be?
There's no word limit. I think typically they submit, between a 2 to 3 page work sample works. And it's, oh, sorry, go for it.
Couple questions for you, Heid. Can you estimate how many hours per week we will need to spend on the work to get the most out of the program? And can you explain a bit more about how poetry intersects with performance and visual art? Does this mean creating poetry that can be performed? For example, slam poetry?
Yeah, I'm welcome to looking at slam poetry. I won't be teaching people how to create slam poetry per se, but we will focus on the oral aspects of poetry, the performed aspects of poetry in a lot of different ways and according to ability. Not everybody is a great performer of their poetry, but the idea of performance and poetry have been together for a long time, and I like to focus on that tradition. I also answered that, the focus is the collection, the manuscript, the page. So that would also have to be part of any work around performed poetry. And the other question about estimating the hours per week, I know for sure we'll have 3 hours of class time. And you will also be expected to read and write. Those things vary so much by individual people. I'm sure that 6 hours, 6 to 10 hours works for most people in taking the work seriously. That would increase or decrease depending on how much we're reading of one another's work. And, active time in conversation and developing your work will change, throughout the year. You will spend more time working on things at some points than others. Sometimes going in and doing little revisions is like weeding a garden. Sometimes it takes a really long time. So, but I think that if you can spare 6 to 10 hours, you can do this work in a year.
Marianne, Nancy is asking, does the Loft offer the writing project every year? Just wondering if I can get in for 2024. Or if I can't get in for 2024, could I wait to 2025?
That's the hope. And to be determined about a June cohort start. So we'll be posting that information on our website as we get that. And I saw one question that asked, just wanted to repeat it for the video. Do we have to pick one genre to learn about, such as do I have to pick between memoir and poetry? And yes, if you're choosing between the two, you would need to choose to enroll in either poetry or memoir. So you would be in one cohort for the year.
Marianne, Cindy asked, if applying for access funds, is it important to also register for the project directly on the first day registration opens?
If you're applying for access funds, you do not need to apply directly on the website. You would just apply to the access funds application.
Peter, Michael asked, for the novel cohort, how far along should the concept be for historical fiction that requires research?
It's a great question. And the answer is it's really hard to say. You could, I've often joked that maybe all you have is an idea written down on a napkin, or maybe you have 1,000 pages of a novel that you've been writing for 10 years sitting in a box at the foot of your desk. And in my experience, either one is fine for this project. We treat every novel like it's just beginning as we begin. I ask people who have several pages to enter the project in the spirit of beginning. So there's that. As far as research goes, there have been instances in the past where people I guess get into the weeds a little bit or are in over their head in the research department, and that sets them back. But I actually have a pretty firsthand set of experiences with this. As a mostly historical novelist myself, I have a lot of best practices that I bring to the conversation for historical novelists, not just for historical novelists, because I think a lot of those ideas transcend genre and work just as well for sci-fi or fantasy as they do for historical fiction. But it should be a part of your consideration, and a part of the plan that we'll make together will be we'll be taking those things into consideration. If you feel like you have 10 years of research ahead of you, probably this isn't the right venue for that. But if it's something that you feel is manageable, certainly we should talk about it, and we can take it from there.
Carolyn, can you speak a bit more about putting the group together? Is it best to set up a time to have a conversation beforehand?
Yes, that's my preference. I do want to have a conversation with people who are interested in taking my cohort. And I have several, questions that we discuss and, try to determine together whether this is a good fit. So, yeah.
And Heid, can you speak to the group dynamic you foresee for poetry? Is it the same as what Peter described for novel writing, or is there anything specific for poetry or specific to your practice?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. And I want to say that I'm sort of both like Peter in what I expect and hope to foster, and like Sun Yung Shin in the aspects of, extending kindness to one another. So I expect people to work with each other and help one another and develop. I think the difference between building novels with peers is the difference between building a house and creating an aesthetic for a house. That's the difference between that and or a prose work and a work of poetry. Building poetry is about developing yourself as a poet. Building a poetry book or a manuscript or a collection is really about being able to still yourself as a poet for the length of 48 to 60 some pages, It's personal, it's intimate, it's voice driven. For most poets, there are poets who work with characters and narrative too. But so in that case, I want the dynamic to be helpful and respectful of all styles of poetry. We'll work with some documents that'll help us create some workshop agreements around how we want to do a workshop. I like some aspects of the traditional writing workshop, but there will be people who haven't encountered a traditional writing workshop that that worked for them at the very least. So we will agree together and we'll take a look at some of the language around decolonizing the writing workshop, leading from the group instead of having my opinion be the be all and end all for the group. So the dynamic, I think, will depend on the individuals, but also I'm going to try and foster something creative that we're doing together.
Thank you. We knew we weren't going to be able to get to all of the questions. Each of the teaching artists have offered contact information that we hope that you will follow up on. And likewise, Marianne is going to place her contact information into the chat one last time. And her information is available via the Loft website for those of you who may be watching this recording. I want to give a special shout out to Peter, to Carolyn, to Heid, to Sun Yung. We're so excited for your leadership with these projects as we go into 2024. And I would just want to acknowledge Graham Harrison, our education associate, who's been wrangling the chat throughout this information session. And again, Marianne Mansler, thank you. We're excited for your role in leadership and support of this work as we head into a new year with the year-long writing projects. Again, spread the word. This recording will be on the Loft website, and we're excited to offer any additional information through direct contact. So feel free to reach out. All right, thank you everyone for coming, and have a great night.
Thank you.